Hey guys, in this review I'm going to be talking about 5 books that are historical based. Those books being Children of Liberty by Paulina Simons, Lucrezia Borgia by Sarah Bradford, The Queen's Secret by Jean Plady, The Scarlet Contessa by Jean Gratis, and The Last Templar by Raymond. Before I get going with these reviews, I will have some annotations down here at the bottom of the screen if you desire to skip around, but I will have absolutely no spoilers in these reviews. So starting off with Children of Liberty by Paulina Simons, this is the prequel to Paulina Simons' The Bronze Horseman trilogy. And this book focuses on Alexander Belov's parents. Alexander is the lead male protagonist in The Bronze Horseman. So yeah, this is about his parents and how they met. Gina and Harry meet by chance at the docks of Boston. Gina is a poor immigrant, while Harry is an upper-class university student. This story is ultimately a book that is about tradition versus the modern world, the poor versus the wealthy, and the possibilities of potential and opportunity. Like I said, this is the prequel to The Bronze Horseman. I was really excited to get into this because I love the Bronze Horseman trilogy so much. But I gotta say, I was massively disappointed with this prequel, and I do believe there is a second book to this. I think it's just going to be a duology. I have no idea when I'm going to get around to the second book, but I hope to, because I am still curious at the same time where Gina and Harry's story is going to go, and how that kind of ultimately leads up to The Bronze Horseman. Paulina Simons' writing is still really gorgeous and descriptive, and she gives you a great sense of being in this time period. That's what Paulina Simons excels at, I think. I think this book is more heavily focused on the themes going on, like the poor versus the wealthy, and the modern world versus the traditional world. It's a very kind of political sort of book. And that political aspect might have been what threw me off, because more so than The Bronze Horseman, I felt like The Bronze Horseman never did this, but I felt like Children of Liberty was trying to push some sort of political agenda, and it was kind of getting on my nerves. And another issue I had, I really adored Gina and Harry as individuals. I thought they were both interesting by themselves. But the thing is, once Gina and Harry kind of do start forming a further relationship, I kind of really didn't like them together, and I found it kind of annoying, and I didn't understand where their relationship even came from. Like I said, I feel like Paulina Simons builds up more on the political aspect and the themes of the book, and rather than building up on the characters. So yeah, I was more leaning on the disappointment side with this book, but I do think if you are a huge fan of the Bronze Horseman trilogy, this book is maybe a place you can head to next if you are curious to see more of Alexander's parents' backstory. Just don't go into this book expecting it to be as amazing as The Bronze Horseman. So moving on to Lucrezia Borgia by Sarah Bradford, and this is a biography of the infamous Lucrezia Borgia. This biography seeks to debunk some of the myths and rumors that surrounded the infamous daughter of Pope Alexander VI. And rather, it seeks to show a Lucrezia Borgia who was not only beautiful, but she was an intelligent woman who used her wit and her beauty to become one of the most powerful women of her era. You guys, I freaking gave this book 1 star. I don't even know how I made it through this book. It was just utterly boring from start to finish. I felt like there was just nothing new in this. I felt like all the information was stuff that I had already known. It read more like a textbook, which was pretty bad in my opinion. I don't know if I possibly found this book boring too, because, you know, Lucrezia is part of the infamous Borgia family, a family who is notorious for being poisoners and sleeping around and seducing people, and the whole thing of incest, whether it's true or not. So Lucrezia, I think my problem with this book is that since it was just all about Lucrezia, I I wasn't really interested in her as an individual. I was far more interested in just the whole family dynamic. The Borgias, in my opinion, work best as a unit. I think it's kind of hard to tell just a single book about them because since they do work so well as a unit, and they're far more interesting as a unit. And this book also turned into a who's who of Renaissance Italy, which I got so bored and confused with, and I never was able to keep anyone straight. And since it turned into this who's who, I often found myself thinking, well, how does this connect with Lucrezia and why? And ultimately just, I feel like nothing ever connected back to Lucrezia. This book also suffered from the whole show, don't tell. I felt like Sarah Bradford told me a lot about Lucrezia Borgia, but she didn't show me Lucrezia Borgia, if that makes any sense. Lucrezia just did not come alive in the pages of this book. I do appreciate the fact that Sarah Bradford did her research. You can tell she did her research. So I applaud her for that and her hard work and the years she spent bringing this novel to life. But still, it's incredibly dull and boring. And I think maybe I also just found this book so boring too because I'm one of those people that I love the scandal surrounding the Borgia family. I love all of the rumors surrounding their craziness and the things they got up to. And that's what makes them so fun and interesting, because you want to kind of, part of you wants to believe in the scandal. So yeah, this book is seeking to undo all of that scandal, and so that's kind of what made it boring, I think. So now, moving on to The Queen's Secret by Jean Plady, and this is the story of Catherine of Valois, who was the daughter of King Charles VI of France, and also the wife of Henry V, as well as grandmother to Henry VII. This book shows Catherine on her journey from princess to queen as she witnesses the wars between France and England and the rise and fall of Joan of Arc. My very first Jean Plady novel. I've heard so many good things about her novels, and that if you're a fan of historical fiction, that she is a must. So I'm glad I finally got around to one of her books. I do think this was really well written and well researched. Really, my only negative about this book is how short it is. I'm one of those people that likes historical fiction that's a bit more lengthy. That way you can really get into that historical figure and all the events that they go through, especially if the historical figure you're reading about lives for a pretty long span of time. Yeah, you don't really want a short book. Even though I did really enjoy this book from start to finish, I felt like a lot of stuff was just spat through. Like Catherine's childhood, and then her marriage to Henry V, who then he just kind of dies like a few chapters later. And then all of a sudden she's married to Owen Tudor. So yeah, I do think the beginning and the end were really rushed, but I do think Jean Plady took more time with the middle, which was all focused on the wars between France and England, and then the arrival of Joan of Arc, and then plus her whole relationship with Owen Tudor. But yeah, other than the speed of this novel, still really fun, a quick read. I'm still trying to gather more and more information about the Plantagenets, because I feel like I know just about everything about the Tudors. Just some really cool information in here too that I didn't really know. I found myself going, wow, that's interesting, I didn't know that. For instance, I didn't know that Catherine's sister Isabella was the wife of King Richard II. I don't think I ever really connected the dots before that they were sisters. Overall, a great read, fun, quick, a great starting place for Plantagenet history / Tudor history. And also, if you're someone who doesn't like graphic sex scenes, then this is for you. I personally prefer the more graphic stuff, but yeah, if you're one of those people that's afraid of historical fiction being way too wild and crazy, then this is for you as well. So moving on to The Scarlet Contessa by Jean Gratis. This tells the story of Caterina Sforza, who was one of the most powerful women of Renaissance Italy, and this is told through the perspective of her lady-in-waiting, Dea. Caterina Sforza was one of the most interesting women of her era. She took control of her own lands, waged her own wars, and held her ground against Pope Alexander VI and Cesare Borgia. And through all of this is Dea, who helps guide Caterina to her destiny. Okay, I really love this. I definitely got to pick up some more books by Jean Gratis because this was just outstanding. There's even a little blurb up here on the back of the book that says, "What Philip Gregory has done for Tudor England, Jean Gratis does for Renaissance Italy." And I think that is very true. The book was just so well researched, I think. I found it believable. There's just enough description to set the scenes. And most importantly, this book did not read like a textbook. It felt like historical fiction at its best. Renaissance Italy is a time period that I'm trying to get more and more from. I find it so fascinating. There's so many interesting figures during Renaissance Italy. So yeah, I think this is a really great place to go, especially if you want to learn more about Caterina Sforza. Like I said, this book is told in the perspective of Dea, who is a lady-in-waiting to Caterina Sforza. I believe Dea is a fictional character. I think Dea was a really good character. I don't think she was as interesting as Caterina Sforza, but I do think Dea held her ground, and she was pretty much an equal to Caterina. Dea's primary usage in this novel relies on the fact that she can read triumph cards, which are basically an early version of tarot cards. So Dea basically spends the whole novel reading the futures of a lot of important historical figures. So yeah, even though I did like Dea, I think the problem with her character is the fact that she is surrounded by all of these far more interesting and intriguing characters, but she still has her use within the confines of the story. I also just really loved Caterina Sforza herself in this book. She marries twice. She's just always plotting and making sure things go her way. She's never idle or passive. What I also had a lot of fun with this novel, in most Borgia-related fiction that I have read, Caterina Sforza is usually the villain, and I never really like her that much. It's like I like her as a villain, but I don't like her as a person necessarily. So yeah, it was really nice in this book to see Caterina as the heroine and the protagonist, and very interesting to view the Borgias as the primary villains. So yeah, overall, a great, fantastic read. Very well done as far as research goes, some great characters, lots of great historical context going on. And then the last book I'll be reviewing is The Last Templar by Raymond Curry. 4 masked horsemen dressed like Templar knights storm into the Metropolitan Art Museum and steal a valuable artifact. Attending this event is an archaeologist named Tess, who hears one of the horsemen mutter something in Latin. So Tess becomes a primary witness to this investigation, and she teams up with an FBI agent to uncover the secrets of the Last Templars. This was a relatively good book. It was neither bad nor good. It was just okay. I don't think this book necessarily brought anything new to Templar legend. It was still very fast-paced and fun, but I don't think it compares anywhere to Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, for instance. I kind of felt like this was a ripoff of the Da Vinci Code. Kind of a cross between the Da Vinci Code and Kate Moss's Labyrinth. So yeah, just judging from those 2 titles alone, you can probably guess that this book has something to do with Jesus Christ and the mysteries of the Bible. So yeah, basically what I'm saying, if you don't like speculative fiction on Jesus and the Bible, this book is not for you. I personally enjoyed the research and the speculation. I found it all very fascinating. Like I said, I felt like this book was a ripoff. I feel like saying ripoff is a too horrible word to use, but a ripoff of the Da Vinci Code. A lot of times the information that would be in this book, I had already read it in the Da Vinci Code. I found myself going, I know this already, and I got kind of bored on occasion, because I knew exactly what they were trying to suggest half the time. I don't think it's necessarily Raymond Curry's fault for all of this repeated information. The thing is, the Templar Knights, they're kind of notorious for certain things, and so the same information is always rehashed in any sort of book that deals with them. My one complaint with the writing was probably the fact that I felt like the ending was totally predictable. I think I saw it coming. I thought the characters were okay. They were pretty basic but interesting in their own ways. Tess and the FBI agent Riley, they do have their moments where they get along. They kind of have this whole opposites attract sort of thing going on, but then they also have their conflict about religion. Riley is a very devout religious guy, and Tess, you know, she's an archaeologist. She believes in the whole, you know, science over faith thing. And then as far as the villains go, just one-dimensional is all I have to say. And also of note, this book not only takes place in the present day, but it also has flashbacks to some Templar knights and how that all connects to the present storyline. I don't think the flashback chapters were necessary in some ways. I think the book could have easily been told without the flashbacks. But yeah, an okay read. If you're looking for a fast-paced treasure hunt sort of book, then this is the place for you. Like I said, it's just not as unique as I would have hoped it to be. So that's it for this group of reviews. Have you read any of these books? Do you want to? Just let me know in the comments below. So that's it for this book review. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you liked this book review, you may like these other book reviews. Bye guys.